All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Kim Knowles, and I run the Architects in Schools program for the Architecture Foundation of Oregon. And here with me today are Candace Agahan and Sam Majors, who also work in Architects in Schools with me. Architects in Schools is run, of course, through the Architecture Foundation of Oregon. And the program has been around for over 50 years. It's a statewide program. AFO is a nonprofit based in Portland, but we serve all of Oregon. One of the goals of AFO is to make design accessible to all Oregonians. We believe that everyone should have a voice in the designing and building of our world. And despite our name, we don't just work with architects, we work with everyone who impacts the built and natural environments, everyone in the AEC industry. So we work with engineers, contractors, urban designers, landscape architects, and the general public. Architects in Schools is our largest and longest standing program. During the school year, students, elementary school and middle school students get to work with design professionals, usually for a period of 6 weeks. We do have options for you to participate for a less amount of time if that's what works best for you and for the classroom you're in. We work to make sure that all programming aligns with what you and the teacher that you're working with need. So there are a variety of participation options that you'll see when you go to the application form that involve less time, like I said, or can accommodate a team of design professionals and college students sharing the sessions to break up the time. During the sessions, students learn design concepts that align with classroom curricula and can align with almost any classroom subject. We have a curriculum guide of materials that help support whatever residency theme that you decide with the teacher. And next slide. Architects in Schools is a collaboration between AFO staff, all of us here today, as well as college students and design and building professionals and teachers. The staff at AFO is here to help you all along the way and support residency planning and while you're in the classroom as well. So we do a lot of site visits in the classroom to help with residency sessions. In Architects in Schools, students learn real-life skills, application of school subjects, career awareness, and environmental understanding. Architects in Schools is not just about creating many architects or engineers or contractors, although sometimes that happens, but it's about helping children understand that design is all around them, that everything from the tools they use in the classroom to their entire communities have been designed, and they've been designed by people, and that they can think that way too. It's about connecting what they learn in school to their daily lives and helping them realize that they have the ability to be creative and think about what is best for people in their communities now and into the future. How it works. So once you sign up, we pair you with a teacher. If you're a college student, we pair you also with a practicing design or building professional, so you can work with them and meet them and get to know them throughout the residency period. As I said, Architects in Schools is designed primarily for elementary school for 3rd through 5th grades, but we have worked successfully with younger grades as well as middle school. And we have a pilot middle school math lesson right now. We've also worked with middle school science and art classes. Once you're paired up with your teacher and your entire team, you attend an orientation to prepare you for your residency. We have a lot of resources that we help you know where to find and help make sure that you're comfortable planning residency with a teacher for your class that you're working with. We also have some trauma-informed social emotional learning trainings that will happen in 2024. Likely the first one will be in February, and we ask that you attend at least one of those. They're very, very helpful. They're with Dr. Renee Mitchell. And then after the orientations, we help you plan your residency with your teacher. And so We encourage that you and the teacher pick an existing classroom curriculum unit to align the residency with, or a theme that you want students to focus on throughout the residency. And then we help you pick and choose lessons that support that. Usually residencies are about 6 weeks in length. They usually take place between February and April. Again, some residencies are shorter than that. It's really whatever works in your schedule and the classroom schedule. Usually there is one session planned per week that's scheduled. Weeks can be consecutive or they can be spread out over a couple of months, whatever works best for, again, the classroom and or what you're focusing on in your residency. But you decide the schedule, and you get to decide what works best with your work schedule and your project schedule. After completing the residency, we do have an exhibit of student work. We will have a virtual exhibit, but we'll also have some in-person public exhibits that are really fun as well. And that way students have a way to culminate what they've learned. And of course, when you design something, you want to be able to share it with the public and share it with your friends and family. And so that gives students a way to do that. Now I'm going to hand it over to Candace. She's going to talk more about our curriculum.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, as Kim said, I'm Candace. I'm part of the AFO Architects and Schools team. And thank you all for joining us today. Please put your questions in the chat if you have any, and then we'll have some time for Q&A after we kind of go through some more of an outline of what you can expect in the program. But I just wanted to touch on building an inclusive curriculum. So we have really focused our expansion of Architects in Schools to more Title I rural and underserved communities. And so what comes along with that is really making sure that we're actively working to make our programming and our curriculum more inclusive. So more inclusive of all genders, of backgrounds, cultures, and identities. So this is something that we do ask you as volunteers to also keep in mind when you're developing your residency with your partner teacher. And we're also here to help with that. So as Kim was mentioning, we always have a lot of resources available to you. So for example, we have some resources that can help you go beyond Eurocentric architecture and design concepts and examples. One easy way to do that is by showing a diverse set of designers. So people, just to show students that designers can look like all different types of people, and show students that they can be represented in that as well. And this is really important, especially for this age group, because interest in STEM related fields can really drop off for girls and gender diverse students and students of color around this age. So really, by participating in Architects in Schools, it's a really great opportunity to reinforce that all students can be designers and can contribute to their communities and think about design in this way and be successful in these topics. So it's really a great opportunity to help the next generation with this sort of thinking and approach to life. And also just touching on what Kim said with the Renee Mitchell workshops, those are ways. So we provide these free workshops throughout the season, and those are ways to get some actual tools to implement in the classroom and just learn about more ways to be inclusive and celebrate all different experiences through your Architects in Schools residency. So if you feel like you don't really know how to approach that, this is sort of like new territory for you, we definitely help you along the way. Next slide, please, Sam. All right, and so we just wanted to go through some example final projects so you can actually visualize what this is. So I know it's a lot of information. It's like a program that we have you apply to in the fall, and then you have your residency in the spring, and then ending with the exhibits at the end of the school year. So these are some examples of projects shown at exhibits, and I'll show you several ones. And there's really no right or wrong to this. There's no project that's too small or too big. But we're just hoping that this gives you a sort of idea of the diversity of projects that can be completed through Architects in Schools. So this project in particular is a City of the Future, and it's connected to one of our Architects in Schools curriculum guide lessons called What Will Cities Look Like 25 Years From Now? And it's one of our more popular ones. It's a really fun way for students to visualize, like, what will cities look like when they're closer to our age and when they're adults. Next slide, please. And then this is another example of that same sort of project. So just to kind of show a different interpretation of the same lesson. And this is also a really great opportunity for students to work in groups and to visualize a future city together, build it together, and be able to display it at a public exhibition. And then the next slide is again another interpretation of this lesson, but in this classroom they explored a future city through drawing it, and I wanted to show this example because it's a really great example of how students explored like the two-dimensional aspect of the design process and then developed that into the three-dimensional three-dimensional part of the design process. So students drew in groups their future city plans and then chose a skyscraper in their city to build, and then they load tested those skyscrapers by doing like a wind load test, earthquake load test, snow load test, things like that. So it really shows students, you know, the whole part of the design process, from conceptualizing ideas to drawing them, sketching them, and then to building them. And then this next slide, so another really popular residency focus is bridges. And that's because it helps meet third grade engineering standards. So there's a lot of third grade teachers who are interested in doing a residency focus like this, because it helps meet the classroom curriculum that they already have to explore in their third grade classroom. So it's a fun way to implement Architects in Schools in the class, and a lot of the time classrooms will load test their bridges after they're built. So that's just another example. And then the next photo is another bridge project, just showing a different interpretation of that lesson. And sometimes classrooms will provide certain design criteria to their students. And so, like, for example, they'll have their students design a bridge that need to include some sort of, or integrate some sort of sustainable design feature. So there's really no limit to what you do, and you can really get creative and work on designing a custom residency with your teacher that really meets the needs of that classroom. Thank you. And then another popular project focus is another lesson from our curriculum guide called A Special Structure for a Special Client. This one's really fun. So students take on the role of an architect and a builder to create a space for a special animal client. And we have a bunch of little client slips that actually come in this curriculum guide lesson. And if you look at the image on the right, you can maybe see that tiny little giraffe in there, but the prompt, for example, is design and build a home for a giraffe who cannot climb stairs, but they like natural light and views at multiple levels. So basically the student was provided with that prompt and was able to design and build a home for their special giraffe client. And this one's also a really great example because you can use any recycled materials to accomplish this. You know, you don't need to go out and find some really nice building materials, whatever that may be. You can use, you know, water bottles, like cut up plastic materials that would just go into the recycling, shoe boxes, things like that. A lot of these projects are really accomplishable with just recycled materials. Okay, and then the next one. So another great example of a final project is ones that take a more historical focus. So this classroom studied the history of Vanport, and then reimagined what that space could look like today. And so we have a lesson in our curriculum guide that actually focuses on the history of Vanport that is available for you to use. And students explore why it's important to prioritize equity and inclusion when designing spaces, so that those spaces can really support everyone who occupies them. So this is kind of just to show like the wide scale of what project focuses can take. And then this one, just a couple more. This one I will acknowledge is much larger scale than what is ever expected of you, but it's really fun. And I wanted to show it because a photo booth might not be like the first idea that you come up with, but the students still went through the whole design process and collaborative design process to come up with this design together, and like all the decor. They really worked together as a classroom through the design process to create this. And as long as you're having students really like work through that design process, any project is applicable. Um, and yeah, so I also wanted to acknowledge like this is never, will you go back one slide really quick? Thank you. We don't expect this, like we don't expect projects as large as this. Like there was definitely extra effort put in by the design professional and the teacher to accomplish this. We just kind of want to show you that there's no limit, and it's really based on what works for you. And then the next slide. So yes, so kind of on a smaller scale to show you kind of the opposite end of things. This is a 2-dimensional project. Final projects don't even need to be 3-dimensional, but this project focused on architectural history and different housing styles. So just wanted to offer this kind of as another smaller scale example that still provides a meaningful and informative project for the students to work through. All right, so yeah, that was a very quick overview. So please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. But just as a reminder, our application deadline is coming up this coming Sunday. And obviously there's a QR code here. I'll also put the links in the chat for more information, and we'll email you after the fact with those links as well. So please, if you have any questions, let us know. And we'll be recruiting design professionals likely even after the deadline to meet the needs of all of the schools that are applying. But really it's super, super helpful if you do get your application in before the deadline. Kim, did you want to add anything onto that section?
No, that was great.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and go through some questions.
Can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll go ahead and we can start asking questions or answering questions that are in the chat. Nicole Williams asked, can the sessions go longer than 6 weeks? Yes, they can. If you and the teacher decide that would work best and you want to and can, absolutely. And we have had some successful after school programming that really is up to what works for the school. Usually if it's an after school program, the teacher who has applied for that has made it clear in their application, and we let you know that's what they're, or we check in with the design professionals that might be paired with them to see if that works. It's not necessarily something that happens very often because the most successful programming really needs a teacher to support the sessions and make sure that you know, design and building professionals and college students can find the materials that are in the school and make sure they have support in the school after classroom sessions for that day have ended. And so if it's an after school program, that will be communicated to you prior to you being paired with them.
I'm grabbing those links right now to put in the chat.
Oh, great. Thank you. The links for schools. Candace, is that what you mean?
I'll put them all in there. So we have a link to our program information page, which you can access all of the applications there and information for both volunteers and teachers. So it's kind of the best first place to go. And then I'll also put the links to each application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sarah asked that there's a list of schools that we typically partner with. You can look at our virtual exhibit from last year, which shows the schools that participated last year, and many of the regulars, if you want to call it that, schools who participate regularly are in that list. But all schools are welcome to apply. All teachers in the state really are welcome to apply. And so we're still accepting those applications until the 22nd. And so we don't necessarily have a list for this year yet. But we will have a list in the design professional and college student application of underinvested areas where schools have applied from. So we'll have that for sure. If you are able to drive to a school, you'll see that list. If you can't go very far, it's okay. There are schools that are close to all of the areas that you guys are joining from. But we will have that list as well if you are interested in serving a school that's in a harder to reach area, or if you know of a project that's happening in that area. So
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yeah.
Can I choose, for example, my daughter's school? If I
Yes.
wanted to do that, would I contact the teacher and have the teacher apply
Yes.
alongside me? Okay.
Yes. And if your daughter's teacher needs more time, but is interested in doing it, since that deadline is this Sunday,
Yeah.
just have them contact us and let us know.
Okay. It is an underserved school. I think it would be a
Great.
good fit. So
That's
okay.
wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it looks like the next question from Elena, about how many hours per week do college students typically commit during residency? So that's something that you can specify on your application. So you can, as a college student, you can, there are several options. So you can first choose whether you want to participate virtually or in person in the classroom. And then there's options to participate for like 1 to, I think it's 3 sessions. Is that how we have it? One to two.
I think it's 1 to 2 and then 3 to
And then
6.
3 to 6. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really dependent on your availability. I would say a typical residency is about 6 weeks. So that's typically physical time in the classroom. That's like an hour per week for 6 consecutive weeks, or however that works for your schedule and the schedule of the other design professional that you work with and the teacher. But really it's based on your availability and what you sign up and are say you can do.
And I
then
will,
there is-
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that there is before the residency happens, like there are hours that you will put into planning your residency, but that role isn't put solely on you. That's something that you do with your team. And we also have a lot of pre-planned residencies that we offer to our participants who might not have a ton of time to create a custom residency. We have like a complete outline that you can follow and implement in the classroom. Really cut down on that planning time.
And we as a staff really want to make sure that it's as smooth and easy as and a good experience as possible. So we're here to help with all of that planning, however works best for you. And then I will say for college students too, I know some of you won't know your schedule for winter or spring terms yet. And that's okay. So if you are interested in doing this, go ahead and sign up. And then once you start planning with your team, you can let them know when you know what your schedule will be and plug in when you can.
Well, and then from Skylar, is the 6-week time commitment set in stone for start time? So no, good question. So our orientations are scheduled for November. We have one on November 4th and 14th. And you only need to attend one of those, and it's virtual. And then after the orientation is typically when teams meet up and start planning. And so you'll have a couple months to do that. You have December, you have January, some teams plan well into February as well. We just ask that you start and complete your residency before the end of the school year. And if you want to participate in our virtual exhibit, but also our in-person exhibits, we ask you to be have your residency complete by the end of April. And then we have a lot of those exhibits starting at the beginning of May. So yeah, I would say the most common scenario is for people to start their residencies in February or March, but it doesn't need to be a certain day of the week. It doesn't need to be a certain date or anything like that. That's all dependent on your schedule and the schedule of the teacher.
Dan Reed asked, how are volunteers paired with schools and classrooms? When you sign up, there are some questions to make sure we know if you can drive to a school, if or whatever your transportation is, if you're biking or using public transit, we really take that into consideration when we're pairing you with a school. If you have any special requests, we really take that into consideration as well. And then if you also want to team up with another design professional and it's a colleague of yours and you've put their name in your application, we'll make sure that you guys are paired together in a classroom. And other than that, we also look at what teachers' requests are. So if there's a teacher that really wants to focus their residency on, something specific, and there's a design professional with that expertise, we also use that when we're pairing design professionals and college students with teachers. Partnering with the SUN program could work well. Yep, we have had some success with SUN schools as well. That works well when there is an accessible staff person or the SUN coordinator is really accessible to the design professional. It doesn't work well if they're not. So, but yes, I agree with you. We have had some great success with some schools. Candace has put the links in the chat. Do we have any professionals of color? Yes. And we really, as Candace was talking about, we really try to make sure that students can see that anyone can be a design professional, that they see themselves in that role. And so schools that have a high student population of color, we really try to make sure that that we pair them with people that represent who's there. Any other questions? Anybody's hand up? I can't see really.
I don't think so.
All right. You want to go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam? Here are our email addresses. If you think of any other questions after the session today, please contact us anytime. We're happy to answer questions that you think about. Sometimes they pop in your head after you leave. So we're very accessible and we're excited to hopefully have you participate.
Thank you. And definitely check out the program information page. There's a lot of good info there about participating. All right. Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
all.